Alright everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is a Jordan Report. Please like, subscribe, and share, please. This is part 2 on how black leaders helped Planned Parenthood become the monster that it is today. In the first part, we talked about a lady named Faye Waddleton, who was the first black president of Planned Parenthood. I talked about that she was a beautiful woman, she was very articulate. She was able to change the image of Planned Parenthood and make it a little more acceptable to black people and more of a women's health type organization instead of the eugenics project that it was. She helped grow it to the size that it is now and just generally changed the image of it and made it more acceptable. We also talked about Jesse Jackson's flip-flop, how Jesse Jackson was once a pro-life preacher, how he teamed up with Reverend Graham, Billy Graham, and his wife for activities, for pro-life activities. He got into politics, and that changed his view on abortion, or forced him to change his view on abortion. But now we're moving over to the social organizations. We're talking about the NAACP and their involvement with Planned Parenthood. What these people essentially did was bought our leadership right out from under us. And the leaders and the organization that would normally protect us against a group like Planned Parenthood are working hand in hand with them. That's the theme of this video. But anyway, here we go. NAACP Leader Awards from Eugenics founded Planned Parenthood. Last month, NAACP board member Reverend Dr. William Barber II received Planned Parenthood Care No Matter What Award from Planned Parenthood Action. Here's Dr. Barber, supposedly a reverend. In his March 27, 2014 acceptance speech, he called Planned Parenthood's president, Cecil Richards, my sister. If you recall, Faye Waddleton said the same thing in part 1 when I was talking about part 1. Only she said Margaret Sanger, the racist eugenicist founder of this organization, was her sister. So these people they're in league with them. They helped them build this thing. They helped them they helped them clear the way to get these clinics into our community when they should be protested. Because good leadership would not allow this to happen to their people. Reverend Barber told Planned Parenthood, "We want a country rooted in the deepest moral and constitutional values." Reverend Barber called pro-lifers extremists and laid out a list of extremist agenda. The conservatives supposedly want to deny immigrants, the poor, gays, and women. This is Reverend Barber. Barber's an NAACP board member and recently participated with Planned Parenthood in their Moral Monday protests. That's what we're going to. NAACP joined Planned Parenthood abortion business for Moral Monday March. Moral Monday, Florida Social Justice Campaign on March the 3rd. On March the 3rd, the NAACP Florida State Conference partnered with several pro-abortion groups, launched the Florida Moral Monday Social Justice Campaign. In full league with them. Planned Parenthood is the largest chain of abortion clinics in the United States, and they locate their clinics in minority communities. They were founded in eugenics and by a racist named Margaret Sanger. So how does the NAACP justify doing anything with abortions like Planned Parenthood as anything near moral? This was not the first time the NAACP Planned Parenthood joined forces. On February 2014, the NAACP joined with Planned Parenthood for another Moral Monday March. In 2013, Melissa Reed of Planned Parenthood Action Fund spoke at an NAACP rally to celebrate the 2013 March on Washington to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the famous I Have a Dream speech of Martin Luther King. They mixed civil rights all into this stuff. And they contaminated our history. Anyway, let's move on. This is the NAACP. We got a little more to cover. Here's the Congressional Black Caucus. They also teamed up with Planned Parenthood. Here's Congressman Emanuel Cleaver serving as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, accepting the Planned Parenthood Award. A former Congressional Black Caucus chair, Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, was awarded by Planned Parenthood at the CBC's annual legislative conference for what the organization called his tireless work on behalf of millions of women who face the most aggressive attacks on women's health and rights in a generation. The question is, what does it feel like to be honored by an organization that killed over 12 million human beings? This was back then. This is 2000, I believe, 14. This was dated 2014, yeah. The number's like at 17 million black people now. What goes through the mind of an individual whose shiny yet blood-streaked trophy celebrates the mutilation of another person? Does one say Planned Parenthood only killed 327,166 this year? But I hope I can top that next year, right? Cleaver used to be outspoken in protecting women and children from Planned Parenthood. All these guys used to be pro-life. There was a time before the character morphing act of running for national office, political office, that he passionately was pro-life. The CBC actions under the former leadership of Cleaver and current leadership of Planned Parenthood, endorsed Representative Marsha Fudge, have helped bring more death in urban areas by partnering with this number one killer, Planned Parenthood. The federal welfare giant, which received $540 million in taxpayer money last year, is the cancer that continues to destroy the black community by promoting abortion as health care, condoning sexual irresponsibility, fostering fatherlessness, and harming women's emotional, spiritual, and physical health. I'll leave a link to this article so you guys can read this. But here's the CBC, the NAACP, the CBC. Okay, we're going to move on because the National Urban League, here's another one of these organizations who jumped in bed with Planned Parenthood. It's really sad, people, because these are our leaders. These are our leaders, and these are the people that would be protecting you against something like Planned Parenthood. You don't see other people's leaders involved with these people like this. You don't see the Hispanic people involved on this level. I'm sure there's some Hispanic people involved, but not on a national level like this. Our leaders literally helped grow this monster. The National Urban League executive, Jacqueline Ayers, is simultaneously the legislative director of health and education policy at the National Urban League and the director of legislative affairs for Planned Parenthood Federation of America. She's holding two posts. Prior to this apparent concurrent role, she was the senior legislative representative for Planned Parenthood for 4 years. This entanglement may explain why the Madison, Wisconsin Urban League owned building also leases space to none other than the state's largest abortion chain. Here it is. They're in the same building in Madison, Wisconsin. And so I just want to give an overview of just how well connected this stuff is. And I'm going to read this. I'm going to read a little something, and then I'm going to play a clip. I'm going to end it with the clip of the NAACP leader, I believe it was Julian Bond at the time. But anyway, here's the Genocide Convention, for those of us who never read this before. This explains what's happening to us, and what is happening to it. These laws were written to prevent what is happening to us. People being selectively targeted for elimination. And Article 2 of the Convention defines genocide as any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group as such. A. Killing members of a group. B. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of a group. C. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. D. Most important right here. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. That's what Planned Parenthood's agenda is. Stated goal. And E, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Okay, that could be foster care if you really want to get down to that. But anyway, I just wanted to cover this overall, and I'm gonna end with the video because I want people to know. Got the wrong one. End with the video if I can find the video. Here it is. Here's the video of Julian Bond. I think he was the president of NAACP at this time. And he's literally boasting about the size or the amount of abortion the NAACP has helped produce in the black community. And this should give us a little insight into these people's mentality. And I'm going to close this out with this.
Please welcome NAACP Executive Chairman Julian Bond.
I am proud to appear here today on behalf of the country's oldest and largest civil rights organization, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And one of the most important protections is the right to reproductive freedom. Open and equal access to family planning has been NAACP policy since 1968. We believe the right to reproductive freedom is as basic as the right to eat at a lunch counter. The right to choose is under vigorous and widespread attack. Providers around the country are forced to pay a cruel terrorism tax to protect themselves from murderers and assassins. He wrote an essay on birth control for Margaret Sanger. He attended a housewarming for her clinic in Harlem. He not only believed in full economic rights for women, but in a woman's equal right to control her body and her life. Every woman, he wrote in 1920, must have the right of procreation at her own discretion. And today, black women exercise that precious right at a rate far exceeding their percentage in the population.